Hello, hello, good morning. Ooh, lipstick. Oh, no, I'm look good. Haha. All right, awesome. Okay, I wanted to come on live to talk about, my marriage and it ending and all the things, because, many of you were enrolled in the journey. It was so exciting, to see, two people finding each other, falling in love, getting married immediately, and, living their life. And that's kind of yeah, so let's talk about that. So when we met, we were at, we met in my office. At the time I had a public office for people to come into because I was working for a company that had the office, and he had found me on a dating app, Plenty of Fish, and within 3 messages I had him coming to my office and delivering me breakfast. So we had breakfast and we sat and we talked for so long. We talked about all the things, and one of the things that we talked about was, you cannot expect your partner to be everything and all the things for you, because one, every need that you have, if you expect one person to fulfill it, that's a lot of pressure on that person, and they may or may not be able to do that. And we were talking about that, and at this point we had only eaten breakfast and had chatted. And when I had said you cannot rely on your partner to be everything, that you need to be able to be open and understand that your partner isn't going to be your end all be all, he actually stood up from around the table and came around and kissed me, and it was just so magical. And that was one of the reasons I totally fell in love with him. And when I really, really fell in love with him was on day 3 of us dating. We met dating, whatever you want to call it. On the 3rd day, I was already planning to go to Idaho. So I was going to go to Idaho, be with my family up there. I needed to go get my Prius, which was my new Prius was up there. And I was already on a trip to go to Idaho and then even to Arizona. So I was going to go to Arizona and then Idaho. And then I had this, this big old trip planned, and we just met, and it was so intense, and it was so fire, and it was so passionate. And I was like, and he was like, I hope I see you when you come back. And I'm like, are you sure you don't just want to go with me? And then he's like, yeah, I want to go with you. And I was like, and that was when it was like, we're getting married. Because if you're going to if you're going to ride and die with me, if you're the kind of man that says, yeah, you're going, I want to go with you, I'll follow you to the end of the earth, woman. Yes. That was the man that I married. That's the man that I married. And then we went to Arizona. We went to Idaho. He met my family. Then we took a long trip around the country to meet his mom, to meet my mom, and we went camping, and we just had just this extremely magical time. And then we got married. That's what I married. I married that. I married adventure. I married going out. I married going to hang out with family. I married going to the beach. I married camping. And maybe that's my bad for thinking that David was all of those things, because he did those things with me immediately. And I'm like, a ride or die, roll up next to you, follow along in your life, have a good time, man. That's the marriage I thought I was getting into. Once we got married and we settled into our condo here, David, for the first time in his life, had a studio that was his own setup, his own place, his own house. And due to the trauma in his childhood, where he never really had a stable place, many times he was sleeping on the living room because his dad was off doing music, and he just got thrown around a lot, and he never really felt stable. So, and then in his adult life, he was either a roommate or something. He never had a place truly on his own. So when he had this place, he just fell in love with having his own place. And all the years that he missed not having a place, he just hunkered down, and he just stayed home all the time. No camping, no beach. We hardly went out. It was a struggle to get him to just go to a restaurant so we could go out to eat. It was one of my favorite things, was going to get breakfast, which is why that was our first date, because I love breakfast so much, and I love going out to eat breakfast. And it was hard, and it was maybe 5 times we had gone out to eat breakfast in our whole marriage. That was one of the things that I loved the most. And it's not his fault, and it's not my fault. We both came in with a lot of trauma, and just our backgrounds have a lot of history in them. And his history meant that he was now in a safe place and he was going to be loaded and locked in, and he didn't want to go anywhere and he didn't want to do anything. And then he just became completely absorbed in his music. And then at first it was like exciting because it's like, oh my gosh, here's a man who's working so hard on his music and he wants to be successful. And I'm just like, wow, he's like got a hustle, he's got a grind to him. Like, I really like that. And then I, picked that up for myself, and that was really cool. But then I began, over time realizing that music was becoming an escape from all the trauma and all the emotions and all the things that he had buried deep inside. And I had things buried deep inside too that I was unaware of. It was during our marriage that I had an absolute breakdown and had to go to a psych ward because all the trauma that I had in my past bubbled up and came out onto David. And oh my God, I can't even imagine like what it would be like 4 months into your wedding and your spouse completely loses it so bad you have to take her to a psych ward. So I'm not innocent here, and there's no blame. We both were very, very traumatized people in our childhood. We both came from things that were really hard to deal with, and I don't blame him at all. But I went to therapy. I went to go get help. I went to find resources. Okay, I said, okay, look, I have these problems. I realized that I had, very abusive parents. I had a very abusive stepmom. I was sent to an abusive boarding school where she was basically a pedophile controlling my life. And all of that happened. And during our marriage, I even went to Montana to testify in front of the Senate in Montana about the abuses I endured at the boarding school in Montana. And David was here to support me and love me through that. And I am so grateful. And I can't imagine the burden he had or the things that he felt because of what was going on. But at the end of the day, we weren't much more than roommates. And he hardly left his studio. And I would cook all the meals and I would make all the foods. And it was tough for me. And then there was a point, because of our trauma and the way that we responded, I have a history of, my dad screamed and yelled all the time. So I scream and yell when I get upset. And I would say the meanest things. It's just the tip of my tongue. The meanest, most awful things will come out. And this is a learned behavior from my dad, from my stepmom, watching years and years of them fighting and just having mean things ready to go. And it just come out. And I'm shocked at even what comes out of my mouth when I'm triggered like that. So both of us, have these traumas and have these triggers. And I went to therapy to go work on them. And I had a full anniversary of therapy. In February was a 1 full year of therapy every week. I didn't miss a week unless my therapist had a vacation. I was in therapy every week, whether I was in his office or on the phone. I had therapy, and it has been radically changing for me. And one of the things that I learned, because I found myself living with a man who originally, ride or die, let's go on a road trip, let's go to the beach, let's go camping, life is amazing, let's go hang out with your family. Like, I had that to a man who never left his studio, and never is a strong word. That's one of my things too, but it was very rare. 7 days a week. Like, we didn't even have like a day together. We didn't even have like a date night, like a set time that was like this. And he didn't like talking about it. He didn't want to, he's like, let's just go with the flow. And I'm like, I really want like dedicated time with you. That's not just sitting on the couch, watching Netflix. So in my therapy, and because of our traumas and our triggers, this is not the first time that David has threatened to leave. And one of the times that he threatened to leave the first time was a year ago today, actually. No, maybe not today, but this week. We had been married we had been married for a minute, and he had yet to like really go any place with me. And I found this, and part of it was like, money. And I was like, okay, well, let's find a cheap way to do it. So I signed up for this like trusted house sitters where you watch the animals and you get to stay at the house for free when the people leave. And I signed us up to go to Colorado. I wanted to, try it out, get some reviews on our page. Colorado was very close, and we could stay there for a week. So I scheduled that, and we were going to go. And like the last minute, he's like, I'm not going with you. And I was like, okay. And I knew it was his trauma. I knew it was all of his things, and it wasn't personal, but it was heartbreaking for me to go to this trip that I had planned. And I wanted to be able to get out of the house, and I wanted more of his time and his attention, but he didn't want to go, and he wanted to do music, So I went to Colorado, and I, just took care of myself. I was able to do some things, and I hung out with my aunt, and I had a great time. But I was just really sad, and I was really sad that the man that I loved and married wasn't with me, and that he didn't want to come, and that it was so difficult to make that happen. And I let him know that I was sad, and, he took it as an attack, like, you don't understand what I'm going through, and, all these things. And I'm like, I'm not telling you I'm sad because I'm mad at you or because of whatever. I'm telling you I'm sad because I'm your wife, and I want you to know I'm sad, and I want you to be able to just give me some love. Like, it wasn't an attack. It wasn't anything like that. And he threatened to leave. And that was the day that I was driving back home, and he said he was going to be gone before I even got back home. And it was really hard because at that time I was so attached to him as my worth. I made him my mirror for my worth, and what I was getting back wasn't very worthy. And and he was like my everything. I made him my everything. So when he said he was leaving and that I wouldn't even be able to see him when I got home, it was really upsetting, and my emotions were all over the place. I can't even begin to describe how my heart was beating the whole time. And I'm driving on these fucking mountain roads, 12 hours back to Las Vegas. And he says he's going to be gone by the time I get there. And it was devastating. And I was so heartbroken. And I was like, please just don't leave till I get home, because I just need you to be home. And he was my best friend, and I just needed him to be home. And he takes that as a threat for suicide. He said, you're threatening suicide if I leave you. And I'm like, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to. I'm just an emotional wreck. I did not know how to handle my emotions at all. I didn't know how to manage my emotions without them being tied to him and what he was doing. And it was just awful. But that was the first time that he threatened to leave. And he didn't leave. And I got home from Colorado, and I continued with therapy, and I talked to my therapist about everything that happened on that Colorado trip and how I felt and how my emotions were just all over the place, and how deeply connected I was to David in a toxic way, that I needed him and I needed his whatever. We are raised to believe that our partner is our everything, and that your relationship is everything, and that if you don't have a good relationship that lasts forever, you're just awful and you're not worth anything. These are some of the thoughts that we have about relationships. And I was single for so long, and then I had this man who's like, I want to marry you, you're so amazing. And it just, I had toxic attachments to that. We trauma bonded when we first met. All the things that we had gone in our past. He had an evil stepmom, I had an evil stepmom. We're kind of outcasted. We both had that. So we trauma bonded when we first met. And so that bond was so intense that when he threatened to leave that first time when I was in Colorado, it was awful for me. Fucking awful. So when I went to therapy and I talked to my therapist about this, I said, I don't want to be in a position anymore where he could say, I'm going to leave, and I fucking lose it. I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. So what do I need to do? And then we began working on me mastering my own feelings and my own emotions, and not tying my worth and not tying my anything to David in a way so that if David, and ultimately it come down to, and I even shared this recently, when my friends got married, I said, what's your marriage advice? And I said, your happiness cannot depend on what the other person is or is not doing. You need to be okay whether or not they do or do not do something. You cannot rely on someone else to do something or act a certain way for you to be happy. You need to be able to manage your own emotions regardless of what they are doing. And you cannot be dependent or reliant upon them to make you feel better. I cannot rely on David to make me feel better. I have to make myself feel better. I have to take care of myself. Because if I leave it in his hands, who knows what might happen? Who knows? If you put your happiness in someone else's hands, they can do whatever they want with it. Whatever they want. And you're at the mercy of that. And I did not want to be at the mercy of that anymore. And one of the things that we began working on therapy was me just taking care of myself. I knew and understood that the reason David hermited down at home and didn't want to leave and didn't want to go out and didn't want to take trips was because of his trauma, and he didn't process it and he didn't know how to deal with it. And music was a way of escaping it and not dealing with it. And I knew that. And I tried to hold as much space for that as possible. I said, okay, this is not personal. It's not personal that he won't go out with me to breakfast. It's not personal that he doesn't want to go on adventures with me. It's not personal of all of these things. This is coming from his trauma. So then I began living in a way where I said, okay, I accept my situation exactly as it is. I am married to a person who has unresolved trauma that is making him believe he needs to stay home, locked in, not go anywhere, whatever. And I said, I can accept that because trauma is so hard. And at some point it's going to click that he needs to go to therapy. If I just keep take care of myself, and I continue going to therapy, and I continue to make changes, and I continue to show how I can go from being an absolute emotional fucking wreck to a strong, stable woman. And that's who you have today. A year ago, I was ready to fucking fling myself off the freeway because David said he was leaving. And today I'm like, okay, bye. Because I worked on my emotions. I worked on being able to master my own feelings, and they're not reliant or dependent upon him or his actions. So from the year ago when I came home from Colorado and he said he was going to leave and he didn't, I began working with my therapist to manage my own emotions and determining that my emotional stability is my job. My emotional reactions is my job, and it's not David's. And I need to take care of myself regardless of what he is or isn't doing. And my belief was that if I could be those things and I could model that for him, that maybe it would show him some hope that perhaps he could then go to therapy and begin to manage his own emotions. So for the last year, that's kind of how I've been living. And I even talked with my therapist, like, I'm just pretending that I'm single. It makes it easier. And I even shared this with my sisters and my friends. I was like, okay, David doesn't want to ever leave the house. What would I do if I was single? I would leave the house myself. I would go out. I would find friends myself. So that's what I started doing. I started finding friends here locally around Vegas. I went to church. I found some friends there. I just started doing things myself. I went on vacations myself, and I didn't require that David come with me. I didn't, shame him or whatever. I just gave him the space, and then I maintained my own happiness because it wasn't like everyone keeps saying like, you two were so happy. Yes, there is happiness here. Sitting on the patio, enjoying the breeze and eating lunch, that's happiness. Sitting on the couch together, watching Netflix, laughing at the show, that's happiness. We had all that. We just didn't have a partnership. It was just him living in his studio room and me running about living my own life. And it just came to a point, and this whole other side of it too was where he has trauma regarding his sexual past and all the things that had happened. And it's not hidden. You can go through the profiles and you can read all of it. But what it also meant is that my husband couldn't really engage with me sexually. And that was one of the things that was so amazing about us when we first got together, was how awesome it was, and the chemistry, and just how fucking beautiful it was, and how much I loved it. And then within about 3 months of being married, it just was gone, and it didn't exist the rest of our marriage. And we had talked about being in an open marriage, and I originally didn't have any desire to be in an open marriage, but I understood that, again, you can't rely on your partner for everything. So like I said earlier, you cannot rely on your partner to satisfy all of your needs. And so I was like, cool with an open marriage. And it was a struggle because he felt so inadequate. And he didn't, he's like, okay, well, if you're going to go date somebody, It needs to be somebody new. And it needs to be someone here in Las Vegas and someone that you can see for like 3 months before, actually do something with them. And I want to meet them and all these things. And it was really hard. I didn't want to go date anybody. I was with my husband. I didn't want to go meet new people. I didn't want to have to build new relationships with new men. That's not what I wanted. I wanted my husband. But he was unable because of all of his trauma. And he didn't choose to process it. He didn't choose to heal it. He didn't choose to go adamantly work on it like I did. And I went to therapy. So it's like a year into our marriage and there's no sex. Hardly if at all. And there's no intimacy and there's no one touching me because they want to touch me. And it was really hard because I enjoy touch and I enjoy affection. And I enjoy appreciating bodies because they're so fun and great. And I had a friend in Arizona, a couple of them. And I was like, I can go get that with them. And I don't want to be in a relationship with them. We already know that. That's not what it's about. It's about having that intimacy, that affection, that connection. And if David can't provide that to me, and I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited. And I tried dating. I tried doing it his way. I tried meeting people. And it's just not what I wanted. I didn't want to meet new people. I wanted to be married. But he was unable to be intimate with me. He was unable to be able to touch me in ways it just wasn't happening. So I said, I'm going to go when I go to Arizona because I'm building a business in Arizona. I'm building a business with my sister. I'm building a business with my friend. I'm building these businesses. I will also end up seeing my friend so that I can get some sexual intimacy and some connection and some affection and have my skin touched. And he was upset because it wasn't somebody he met and he didn't like that it was someone from my past. And I was like, I understand that. But at the same time, we've been married for a long time and I haven't been physically touched in an affectionate way, in a loving way, in an intimate way. And I really want that. And I know this person can provide it to me without requiring a relationship. And I know them and I trust them and it's safe. It's so much safer to go with the person you already know than to meet some random new person. And he didn't like that. He felt that it was against his consent. And he did not want me to engage intimately with this person. And I ended up not. But that was the reason he chose to leave. Was that he didn't consent to me going to hang out with this person. And I'm relieved. I'm relieved. Honestly, that's the biggest feeling that I have is relief. Because for the last year, I have been a therapist. I have been a mother. I absolutely take care of the house. He takes out the trash, refills the water, sometimes walks the dog. I was taking care of everything. I grew my own business while taking care of the whole house, cooking 3 meals a day. And I'm not like, I did all this for you. I'm just like, I don't understand how, if I'm doing all of these things, nothing changes the way I treat you when I go hang out with my friend and get some intimate connection. I absolutely treat you the same. I take care of you the same. Nothing changes. Why would you need to leave for that? And it's just trauma. That's all it really is. It's his trauma and his perception about what is going on and how it's happening. But in the end of the day, him leaving is a relief because I was committed to my marriage in that I knew he had this trauma and I was willing to hold space for him and I was willing to wait for him to process through and I was willing to just be that strong person in our relationship to give up all these things that I wanted, camping and going to the beach and going to get breakfast and just going out, leaving the house. It could be difficult for him to go on a walk with the dog around the complex. Like it was a struggle just to have him come out of the house for a walk because he had to lock all the windows and lock all the doors. We're in a gated community with round-the-clock security guards. And in his trauma of having been robbed before meant that we had to Fort Knox this place every time we left. So a 5-minute dog walk wasn't worth the security hassle. I didn't want to be married to that anymore. I didn't want to. I'm just living my own life. And I began doing my own things. So like I said, for the last year, I've been living single. I'm in my mind, I'm like, I'm just taking care of myself. I have my own responsibilities. I have my own things I take care of. I'm going to do me. And so I began doing things that brought happiness to me, for me, about me, whatever. I got a life coach. I joined some different groups. I hung out with different friends. I got some new hobbies. I got a sewing machine. I got crafts and things. And I just started taking care of me and doing me. So when the next time that he threatened to leave, it was like, okay. A year ago, yeah, I was fucking a puddle of mess on the floor ready to die because he threatened to leave me. And today I'm like shining gloriously. The neighbor said so. He's like, oh my God, I have never seen you so bright and shiny. He's like, you're radiating. He's like, it's just coming off you. I was like, I know, I feel it. Because it was so heavy to not only have my own trauma and go to therapy and process it, but to hold all of David's and he's not processing it. He's not taking care of it. He's not doing the things he needs to do. And so I'm holding all this space. I'm holding mine, doing my processing. I'm holding his. I'm trying not to be triggered with his, right? Because like I have the history of the abuse, the screaming and the yelling and the saying mean things. That's all buried within me with my trauma that is now coming out and healing. And I feel so light. I feel so free. You can see it and hear it and feel it. And yes, I love him. And yes, I'm going to miss him, but I'm not going to miss this roommate situation where it was like, you're my wife, but I'm not going to treat you like my wife. I'm going to control you like a wife, but you're not going to get love and affection. And that was a struggle. And again, I know why. I know why. I know that he has the trauma. I know that he has that history. I know why, and I'm so sorry. But I deserve love too. I deserve affection. I deserve a person who wants to go out with me. I deserve a person who wants to go meet my family. I deserve a person who wants to go to the beach, who wants to go camping, because those are all the things that I love. And those are all the things that I would want to do with a partner. So if you love those things and you're single, let me know. Anyway, I just wanted to come on here and share this because one of the biggest things that was so hard for me was the embarrassment. This was such a fun love story. We met and got engaged in 3 days. Like, who does that? I regret none of it. None of it. I would do it all the same. I had so much fucking fun. And I have learned so much during this marriage, and I am so grateful. And I have nothing but gratitude for everything that I've experienced. And I got my Zoo, my puppy. David called me Zoo because of all of my laughs. Sometimes I sound like a bird and a pig and a squeal, a seal, whatever, and he called me Zoo. And then I wanted a puppy. And when we saw the rescue posted an animal named Zoo, he finally said yes to that dog. I had shown him a few different dogs, and he said no. And then when we saw Zoo, it was like destined. So we got Zoo, and I'm so grateful. He loves me so much. He's my little heart. And I got Zoo. And I'm so grateful. And I got me too. Look at me. All of this didn't exist a year ago. It didn't exist. It was there. It was ready. Me coming out, me being my, and he got me this cup, and it is my favorite cup, and I love it so much. And it just represents me. I'm the fucking boss. There's so much good things, so many good things, and that's what I focus on. And every day that I was living my life, I was happy. I don't want holding space for trauma and being married to a person who has all this trauma that has to be processed. That was heavy, but I lived each day happy. I chose each day, I'm going to go on my walk. I'm going to listen to Andy Grammer. I'm going to have, it feels so damn good to be me. And I would walk around the complex singing that song and just having a fabulous time. I would start my day with that. I would make us coffee, and David would be so grateful for the coffee, and he would say, "You're so wonderful." You know, he would tell me wonderful and amazing things. I lived each day happy. I don't want you to think I wasn't happy. But you can be happy and you can be holding heaviness at the same time. And that's what I was doing. And I'm not holding heaviness anymore. So it's just so freeing. So I love you all. And I can't wait to go back and read the comment. I know you guys are like commenting, but I just couldn't pay attention and look at the comments at the same time. I just had to keep talking. So I'm so grateful for my marriage. I'm so grateful that I learned all the things that I learned. And one of the biggest things that I've been working on is getting in touch with who I am, a divine goddess on earth, as we all are. And a belief that I have is that everything is working in your favor. Good or bad, things that happen to you ultimately is going to work in your favor. And you know what worked in my favor? Because of COVID or something, the mailing of our marriage certificate, like, it was never processed. We're not legally married. We got married on the beach. We filled out the paperwork. We went to court to get the marriage license. But after my sister mailed it, I don't know what happened to it. There's no record that we're actually married. So there's no even divorce. Like, everything worked out in my favor. This has worked out easily, smoothly. In fact, I knew that at some point we would probably have to be splitting up. If he wasn't going to go work on his trauma and I was going to continue to say that I have needs that need to be met and I'm going to take care of my needs how I need to, I knew this just wasn't going to last very long. But it would be very difficult for me to move out. I came back home after he left. The house looks the same. Everything in here is mine. He only had his studio. If I had to try to leave, it would have been really difficult. But he left. He packed up everything and left. That really worked out in my favor. Now it's easy peasy. Anytime that he threatened to leave before, it was so messy. Who's going to leave? Who's going to pay? And then he's like, well, I'm just going to live in the second bedroom and don't look at me. And I'm like, we're going to live in a 2-bedroom tiny condo and not look at each other. Like, okay. But this time he just cleaned up and left. He went out. Works for me. Makes it easy peasy on me. Like, everything is working in your favor. Like, it's all working out. Everything has worked out for me. I have my zoo puppy. Without David, I wouldn't have had Zoo. I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that I got me, that I got this, that all of this came out. Me speaking right now came out because I learned so much and I grew so much and I evolved so much through this marriage. I'm so grateful for all of that. And I'm so grateful just to shine every day and be myself every day and build my business and do all the things. Life is amazing. The reason we struggle so much when we break up is because we put all of our worth in that person and expect them to show it to us. My worth is not in David. My worth is in me. I don't need him to tell me that I'm a cool person. I don't need him to tell me that I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm cool all by myself. I don't have those attachments to a person anymore. My who I am is not defined by the people in my life and whether they can see my worth or not. And David loves me. He absolutely does. And I know, and he knows that I'm the best woman he's ever met and that he's ever been with. 100%. And I know that he even said that the other day on his live. I know that. I know he loves me. I know he does. But his trauma is more important to him than that because he not willing to process it, not willing to go get help, not willing to do the work. And I can't, how long am I supposed to bear that? How long? When you're with someone and they have stuff and they don't clean it up, it's like living with a hoarder, but emotional hoarder. And there's all these complex things that I couldn't say certain things to him without setting him off. It would just set him off. And then it was just like, geez Louise. So then I had to learn, I was like, okay, and I would be set off, I promise. I'm not guilty. I'm not innocent here. I'm not innocent. But I learned, okay, when things set me off, what do I need to do? I need to breathe. I need to take a breath. I need to walk away. I need to walk around the building. I need to listen to music. I need to call somebody. I need to go to therapy. Like, I had a set of things that I would do. And he didn't really have a lot of things. And it was just getting harder and harder. But I chose happiness every day. I have felt happiness every day. Every picture that I have posted is me being happy. I wasn't carrying around the sadness. I was simply holding space for his trauma, holding space for the fact that what I thought what I thought our marriage would be wasn't. And then I was like, okay, all of that is what it is. I accept it. I'm going to choose each day to wake up, have a good time, dance to my music, do my business, go out, make friends, go out and eat by myself if I need to, whatever. If I like breakfast restaurant, I'll go by myself. I did that a couple of times. I just took myself out. I just took care of me. And the more that I was taking care of me, the less attachment I had to David and his requirement that he saw my worth. I saw my worth. I didn't need him to see it. I didn't need him to reflect it back to me. So I have been very happy. I am very happy because it's all my choice and how I choose to perceive every situation. And that's something I've learned during therapy, which is so amazing. Anyway, I'm going to let you all go. Thank you for watching this. And thank you for the love and support. I already see the comments. Thank you. Thank you. I love you all so much. Marriage is hard. And relationships are hard. But the thing that makes it the hardest is knowing that you have all this shit and you won't clean it up. Go clean it up. Go to therapy. Did you watch your parents fight and argue every single day? Yeah? Go to therapy. Did you watch your parents manipulate each other? Yeah? Go to therapy. Because all you're going to do is bring that into your relationship. Even if you think you're the opposite of your parents, it's going to come out. I've seen it. David called me Don Dillon all the time. He never met the man, but he did through me. That man has a lot of mean evilness in him, and it would come out through me. And I've gone to therapy to work on that. Therapy is amazing. Therapy is why I'm so happy today, even though my husband just moved out. Because I have learned to manage my own emotions and take care of myself and not put my worth in anyone else. And I don't give a F what y'all think of me at the end of the day. Because there are definitely some people who would be like, Melissa, how could you do that? You got married in 3 days, like you live in a lie and all these things, blah, blah. Who does that? Who would go sleep with another person when their husband? And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm living my life and taking care of me. And I'm the only one who gets to choose how my life happens. And I'm the only opinion that I care about how my life happens. And that is how I've mastered my life. And you can master your life too when no one else's opinions affect yours. When no one else's ideas about you affect yours. When you can stand strong and say, this is who I am and I'm confident. That's where I'm at. And I love it. So, have a wonderful day. See y'all later. Thanks for the love. Bye.